Here we are yet again, revisiting this topic of AI. I recently saw a report about writers using AI to author and publish books for sale, which opens the door for this question. Does AI kill creativity? If so, what does this mean for artistry? I think that these questions are worth asking. I don't think we've heard adequate arguments for the long-term ramifications of AI usage. That's precisely why the arguments will be made here. You see, here at the Lecture Center, this is what we do. We philosophize on life, and we talk about what the mainstream, doesn't. We talk about what trends they will never cover. What will be said today won't be hot now and cold tomorrow. It will hold its value, and it will live forever. With that said, let's explore what I believe to be an imminent problem with AI within the world of the arts. It is that they have programmed AI to write stories, music, lyrics, and even mimic the voice of a real human. Has AI not only killed creativity, but nature's design? Nature has made it that all of us should have our own uniqueness. There are some things that you can do that others can and probably will never be able to do. We have our own identities that some people have yet to fully develop. That can be a lifelong process, and often some never actually discover who they are, independent of their own family. Nevertheless, there ought to be a way that we could integrate AI into the creative process so that we could possibly evoke our creative side. But as it stands now, those who fail to take the time to discover their uniqueness and their artistry choose to take the easy route by using AI. What mankind doesn't understand is that creativity, which is enshrined in artistry, doesn't come from the external world. It is of the innermost regions of man's heart. Art, all artistry, comes from the part of man that is unable to be expressed in simple terms, because it's spiritual. The spirituality of man is primal in nature, and as I said, it is not of the world. Essentially, what man has done is try to copy what can't be copied. Art is only cultural when it is shared with others, and that's because it offers critical insight into not only how men live, but who they are. Which brings us back to the concept of identity. Identity is the uniqueness of man, if and only if he decides to use art to distinguish him from the collective identity. You see, art gives men a unique identity not defined in people, places, and things. In art, man finds calm and solace. He finds a place outside of the world that gives him freedom from fear and the constant pressures of life in a world of conformity. Not only this, art enriches the life of not only the creator of the art form, but those who partake in it. Art in its true essence doesn't reflect politics or social issues, which, by the way, isn't art at all. That's propaganda. Why? Because instead of evoking the human ethos, it is making a political statement. Art is not political, nor does it function to send a public announcement. It is as the late Ayn Rand said, art can evoke man's deepest of emotions, and I'm paraphrasing that. What is the point of art if we're not having that visceral experience? After all, we are thinking and feeling beings who desire to feel alive. That's what we all want, to be alive and know what it means to feel alive. It is art that provides not only cultural significance, but a sense of spiritual awareness or consciousness, as it is called. Art enlivens the souls of men, allowing for men to come into contact with the unseen realms of spirit. This is the meta-conscious state of man, and it's only through art that man can experience it. AI cannot create that. AI can only predict what happens next in a pattern, but that is not true intelligence. nor can what AI generates be said to be art or an art form. Perhaps we should move to change the overall definition of art. It's now time for the human being to become more in touch so as to distinguish himself from the machine. We should know what it is. How can we, the living and thriving, be comparable to the inanimate? There surely must be a distinction, and if so, what is it? How can we discover it? How can a man disguise himself from the impersonator, AI? And this takes us back to where we started. Man has the ability to do something that AI cannot. He can and will evolve beyond the machine. Unbeknownst to tech giants, man is evolving his mind to heights that are beyond the scope of AI. This is the evolution of mind and heart. It is essentially the passing away of the material man and the ushering in of the new man, the spirit. For you see, we have reached the apex of our material existence. We have done all we can do in the world. In fact, we've done so much, we've actually tried to clone our own mind. What we perceive as the creation of a new kind of life and a more efficient way of maximizing productivity is really the death of our own mind. If man fails to use his mind on a relatively daily basis, he will lose it. Friends, we will lose our mind if we don't use it. You see, the mind is like your limbs. If you fail to walk at least every day, don't expect to have much use of your legs. Your legs will eventually atrophy, and the same goes for your mind and your brain, by the way. But people seem to not know what the mind is used for. And that's the saddest part about all of this. The fact that something as valuable as a human mind is not being made useful to most people. I say this because our daily lives are made up of routines. We don't live in spontaneity, and we don't live in any kind of real thought, and we seem to want it that way. AI provides us with a life where we don't need to think at all. The so-called writer doesn't really need to write. The painter doesn't need to paint. And the speaker won't even have to speak his own words. The next question is, how can mankind survive without a living mind? One that creates not for anything but the expression of the spiritual man, which is that inner man. AI, the inanimate, is not just creating music and art. It is creating a race of men who will not know what it means to think or how to think. Thoughts and thinking will be a thing of a not so distant past, one that man will not be able to grasp because he would have already contributed to the devolution of his own mind. Now, don't get me wrong, propaganda is doing the same thing. It's breaking down man's capacity to think. But this, AI, goes far beyond propaganda. You see, man has reached the apex of his material existence. He's come to a threshold that he can't cross, and that is the threshold of life and death. Nature, will only allow man to go but so far. He can't form but so much, and he can't fashion and build but so much, because nature will dictate that. And that's because man must let go of the material world and all that he knows in order to cross over into the new world, the new reality, and he must receive a new kind of perception. If man can't release the old world, the old view of himself, he will not be permitted by God to move beyond the material realm. AI is a symbol of man's rise and his descent into the abyss of matter. Man has accomplished great feats, but he now must do the work of devolution, and that is rendering the mind useless. It must be understood that if AI is used to express what lives in the mind and heart of man, then what does man need to do? Is this existence of man simply to keep the systems of the world going, or is it to evolve beyond his material existence in order to learn and grow? AI has a role to play, and so do we as men. AI is here for the purpose of further devolving and breaking down man's mind into a more primitive and simpler state, so that in some cases it can be more malleable for the receptiveness of the spiritual. In other cases, to prevent the reception of anything spiritual at all, so that there's no possibility of spiritual evolution beyond the material world. Now, I know that all of this is heavy, and at some point you might be questioning everything I've been saying about AI. And even with all that was said here, I'm still not against it. But I do want people to understand the purpose of AI and how its continued use will gradually cause the shrinkage of the brain and render people incapable of using it to think. Don't get me wrong, AI didn't facilitate this process. Currently, the media has been doing this for a number of years, and like I said, by using propaganda. However, AI is going to contribute in a way that the media could not, because AI is reversing the mind and taking it back to a state of primitivism so that it will not be privy to the higher consciousness. And the question is why? And I said it at the beginning. This is the apex of human evolution. You see, when man gets to the top, he can't go any further unless his mind evolves beyond matter. This can only be possible for those who are willing to accept change. What do I mean? AI is the change. Accept that AI is here. Accept why it is here and allow it to do what it is really meant to do, which is to devolve mankind, to take man back down. You see, my friends, once you get to the top, there is nowhere else to go but down. The case here is that man has no idea that he has hit the threshold. He's hit the ceiling because he doesn't recognize what he's done to himself. Man is more worried about losing his livelihood to AI than his irreplaceable mind. Friends, if you like this kind of content and you're hungry for more, please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm always accepting of your comments, and I'm looking forward to them. Until next time.